Good morning, Lansing Journal readers and subscribers. I am Managing Editor Josh Bootsma, and we're here with Melanie Youngsma, publisher of the Lansing Journal.
Hello, everyone.
And the reason I am introducing this video is because Melanie is kind of the subject of today's video. Melanie has been going on intentional trips to churches throughout Lansing. If you're friends with Melanie on Facebook, maybe you've seen this. And our video today is just going to kind of orbit around your experience doing that.
Exactly. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Whether you're a church-going person or not, that's typically what you do every Sunday. A lot of people have a Sunday routine. I would say of the days of the week, it's maybe the most routine day sometimes for people, if they have something that they always do. And you have been doing something different as you move throughout your weeks in the last... When did you start this?
I started this last January as a New Year's resolution.
Okay. And yeah, why did you decide to do that?
That's a good question. You and I, as the Lansing Journal, we are very intentional about being involved in our community. So we have a lot of opportunities to go to different businesses, eat at different restaurants, attend different events, and we do that intentionally because we want to represent as much of Lansing as possible.
Right.
And churches have been sort of a blind spot for us. We've not made any specific effort to include, we include churches in our writing. We write about things going on at churches, but we don't often have a reason to go to a church on a Sunday morning.
That's right.
To cover a story.
Right.
So I started thinking about that, and I grew up in Lansing, so I'm familiar with a lot of the churches. There are also just church buildings that I drive by or walk by when I'm out and about town that I've never been inside. And I thought, I'm gonna be intentional about this. I'm gonna visit Lansing churches throughout 2022. So I set that as a goal, and I put on my calendar every week a different church, and it was good for me. It was a good experience.
The idea is so simple, to go around and visit different churches in the area, and maybe people get a sense of that when they move to a new place and I'm looking for a new church home, I'm going to visit these different ones. But to be in a place for as long as you have and to decide I'm going to go around and see what the churches are like, I think that's really, really cool. So,
and I was not going as the Lansing Journal.
Right.
This was just a personal quest of mine to visit as many Lansing churches as possible. And I started posting on Facebook. Just, I was at this church today, and here's what I learned, here's what I saw, here's what impressed me. And people seemed interested in that. People who also had noticed that church building and never been inside. I was not originally planning to write an article about this or to critique churches or anything.
Right.
But there seemed to be interest in it. So then I wondered if there was a way to turn it into something.
Yeah. Hence this video, sharing some of your reflections. So before we get into some of your more reflective thoughts, how many are we talking about, and did you create a list? How did you create a list on where you're going to go?
Well, the Lansing Journal has a business directory on our website, and there's a church category in that directory. And we had 17 or 20 originally, and then I found a couple of other churches and I added those to the directory. So there are 22 churches listed in our directory. I know that's not all of the churches in Lansing. There are others that I really wasn't able to connect with. But that gave me a starting point, and I lined them up alphabetically and started visiting them one by one.
So 20 churches throughout the year. That's a lot of experiences, a lot of new people that you met, I'm sure. What would you say are some of the overall, flying high kind of perspectives, some positives of your experience?
Yeah, there are a lot of good people in Lansing. It was really affirming to go around to places I had not been before and meet people who have solid values and who want to do the right thing and who are friendly and welcoming. All of these churches are are different. We have a wide variety of churches in Lansing, which was also interesting. Different beliefs, different traditions, different expectations, different worship styles. But also underneath that are some common values, some common. We have a lot in common as well.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to see that in churches, and I think that's a reflection of Lansing in general.
I'm sure you have specific experiences too that you reflect on that think that was really nice to talk to that person or to meet that person or whatever. Let's move to the other side of the coin a little bit. What do you think, again, not mentioning any specific churches or anything, but things that in general you feel that churches in Lansing could improve on? Any trends that you saw that could be improved?
Yeah, at some point in the year, I actually started keeping notes.
Yeah, sure.
Things that struck me that I wished had been done better.
Sure.
I would say that the observation that I think is true of just about every church I visited is there's sort of an unawareness of what it's like to be a visitor, to show up not knowing anybody, not knowing anything about the church. That's difficult, especially for introverts, to show up at a new place. This is not only true of churches, but when you're part of a group that has been together for a long time, united in a mission, you know what's going on, and you're used to the people around you, and you're working together, you know what's expected.
Right.
And then when you start needing help, it can be hard to onboard people because you want them to know all the same things that you had to learn.
Right.
20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Right.
So that's true of community organizations in Lansing as well as churches.
Yeah.
You want to grow, you want people to join you, but you don't remember what it was like to be new. Schools are probably the only organization where that's built into their DNA. You're always welcoming a new class.
Oh, sure.
New people who don't know the rules, who don't know the culture of the school. So you have to onboard them, you have to train them, you have to teach them, you have to be open to that.
Yeah.
So that becomes part of the culture. Churches don't have that. A lot of community organizations don't have that. And then I think the tendency is to, as you age, you get smaller because people are not joining you. And that's a problem that a lot of churches in Lansing are facing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just hearing you say, big corporations pay other companies lots of money to secret shop at their movie theater or at their restaurant or whatever, to have someone completely outside of their circle who knows the ins and outs visit and share their detailed thoughts on what their experience were. Now, it's obviously a little bit different than churches, but I've heard that referred to as the curse of knowledge, where you can't unlearn something. You've got it all up there and you can't unlearn it. But in order to understand how someone else is going to understand you is a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah. I would suggest that church leaders, church members, be intentional about visiting 3 churches that you've never been to, where you are not known, where you don't know anything about the church, and just feel what that's like to not know where the front door is, to not know what time the service is, to look at their website and see what speaks to you and what information you wish was there.
Right.
That's your homework for this week.
There you go. Yeah. And that's an interesting note, because I think that although people drive past church buildings a lot, the people who are probably looking to attend a church, the majority perhaps nowadays, are going to first encounter a church online.
That's true.
Where you have maybe you have a specific denomination you're looking for, or a specific area you're looking for, and you're looking at the map and seeing which closest. That is often the front lines of interaction in a lot of ways in our world today, but I think churches are not immune to that. Last big picture question for you. You mentioned as we began how churches are a big part of Lansing. So now, having intentionally visited a lot of them, do you have any reflections or thoughts on the roles that churches play in the broader Lansing community, and how indeed important they are for our community?
Yeah, it was very encouraging to hear from quite a few churches who are specifically looking for something to do in the community. They want to get more involved. They want to meet a need, and they are looking. They're trying to figure out what they can do.
Yeah.
And that is difficult. We've heard that from other people too. People who want to volunteer. People who move in and want to get involved in Lansing. I don't have the answer to that, but it was encouraging to know that there are large groups of people who want to do something in Lansing, want to make this a community worth living in, a community that we can be proud of, and they're proactive about trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I enjoyed my past year of visiting churches.
Thanks for sharing your experience, and we'll be back again with you next week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.